Let's get ready to rumble!
Hello and welcome to Netflix versus Cinema, the podcast that is figuring out a brave new world of having two children and what that does to your film watching schedule. My name is Tosin, I am the host, and I am based up in the middle of the United Kingdom, somewhere called Bromsgrove, just outside Birmingham. And joining me, as always, on the Isle of Wight, it is Sharon Bollen.
Hello there.
Yes, and that's all who is joining me at the moment. We might get a rogue person joining us from a BA lounge because the jet-setting Holly Nesling, for that is the way she rolls, is currently sat in an airport in Belfast, I think, and might be joining us all the way from Belfast. And Sean Harris, our cinema-watching doyen, is somewhere in Vietnam. We believe he is safe, even though we haven't heard from him from like 2 weeks. So, and I'm actually happy that we've managed to actually record this. Although, as to Sharon, as to when we actually get this thing up, God knows, because we recorded a show 2 weeks ago that still hasn't actually been posted online.
Our public will just have to wait a little bit longer.
Our public will just have to wait a little.
Adoring public.
See, now this is the thing. I found out today. I keep getting. It's kind of like we keep having these people who listen, but listen silently and listen kind of like. So yeah, we have people who listen and they listen silently. They sort of listen in the background and just kind of like hide somewhere. And every now and then we get something pops up and they let us know that they're listening. So it turns out that my cousin, the one who has the same name as me, Tosin, who's up in Edinburgh, he just sent me a message which was I thought was a bit cryptic. I was kind of like, what the heck what do you mean by this? And it was he just went, why deepest breath, and I was like, why are you talking about why? And then he does this thing. He's one of these people who, if he's going to text you a sentence, the sentence ends up being about 5 different WhatsApp messages because he sort of like texts the first word, texts the second word, and then texts you like 3 other words because he never just sends the whole sentence in one go. And I was like, what are you on about? And I thought that he was like, why, then taking a deep breath. But it turns out that he was talking about The Deepest Breath, which is the documentary that we reviewed.
Yeah.
The documentary we reviewed, and he, on our recommendation, he had gone to watch it. He had gone to watch The Deepest Breath, and he was lamenting the fact that he was like, oh no, The Deepest Breath. And we have just had a Holly, a jet setter join us.
Who is actually now home.
You're
Because
actually
our
home.
flight got cancelled. So our flight was cancelled. They moved us to 6 something tomorrow morning, and we managed to move our flight to 3:45 today. So I am literally just through the front door, and love you all so much.
You see. Now that's the thing. I was looking at this and I was thinking, I think the BA lounge is a lot nicer than I thought it would be.
Yeah, I mean the BA lounge was decent. Don't get me wrong; it was perfectly pleasant, but it was
But it's not home.
It's not home.
I was thinking this looks a lot more homely. I would not expect there to be like a kitchenette in the BA lounge.
Yeah, no, there wasn't. It was good. Don't get me wrong. Belfast City is an acceptable airport, but yeah, home is nicer. And I'm literally through the front door. I am being mostly ignored by the cats, but I had the opportunity to join you guys immediately, and so I have done so.
Well, and it is very, very, very well appreciated. So we were just talking about how our public has been listening and how my cousin, the one who has the same name as me, has gotten back in touch with us just sort of talking about The Deepest Breath. And he watched it as a result of our review and I think pretty much agree with everything we said. So The Deepest Breath, once again, I can recommend it. Storytelling, brilliant, and... is it twists? I don't know if they're twists, but they're definitely sort of like surprises in it and all that. But I think it's good. There's surprises and emotion in there. So I would say, but anyway, for anybody who's listening to us for the first time, for anybody who doesn't have the same name as me, doesn't live in Edinburgh, and doesn't immediately go, oh yeah, I listen to you guys every week. What do we do on this broadcast? We are called Netflix versus Cinema, and that is because we essentially go to the cinema each week. We see as many things as childcare nowadays will allow us to. We see as many and we stay at home and watch as many things as we can. and we bring them together. We rate them all out of 5, and we say where has our money been better spent this week. Now, this week, I believe that we do not have a Sean because Sean is somewhere in Vietnam, probably not in a BA lounge. I actually don't know what city he's in, but knowing Sean is probably all over the country. But that usually means that when Sean is around, our cinema watching goes down a tad. So I believe, Sharon, you have something from cinema?
Yes, I've seen The Great Escaper at the cinema. Michael Caine's latest. Well, they think it's his last film, don't they? Because he's announced officially that he's retiring. But some old war horses just keep going.
Yeah, he has done that a couple of times.
Yeah.
He has done that a couple of times when he says, "Oh yeah, that's my last film." I believe Harry Brown was at one point his last film, yeah. And then someone brought him the script for Youth, and and I think the way he describes it is like the young boy in him who thinks, "Oh my God, I might never work again. No one might ever ask me again." Just jumps at the chance. So I think he retired for Harry Brown, then he was in Youth, then he retired for Youth, then I think Christopher Nolan can come in, then he retired. So yeah, I think this one, the people have been making that, but what it is, it's definitely the last film of Glenda Jackson.
Yes, we know, yeah.
Yeah, we know it was the last film that Glenda Jackson was in.
Film, yeah.
It was definitely her last film. All right, so we have that at cinema, and at home, the things that we've watched at home. I don't know if Holly is ready to tell us what she's watched at home.
Let me check. I haven't put myself on mute by accident. I assume I haven't.
No, you are not. You are not on mute. You are not on mute.
I am audible. Hurrah!
We can hear you. We can't see you, but we can hear you.
I'm afraid I've turned my camera off because I'm running around trying to do my unpacking at the same time.
Okay.
So yes, I have seen series 3 of Wheel of Time.
Series 2.
Series 2, yes. You see, this is what happens when I get off the plane. Brain goes, I've seen Series 2 of The Wheel of Time. I am not prescient. But I'm sure Series 3 will be marvellous, or not.
Well, I have been hearing good things. I've been hearing things that make me think maybe I need to actually start watching that after the 15 million other things I need to watch. And I have seen They Cloned Tyrone on Netflix, which is, They Cloned Tyrone on Netflix. So, Sharon, I know you've seen Ghosts season 5 on BBC
I've seen
iPlayer.
UK season 5 and US season 2. Yeah,
all right,
on iPlayer.
So I am 2 episodes away from finishing season 5 of UK Ghosts.
Yeah, let's leave that one then. We'll hold off on that one.
Let's hold off on that one, and let's leave that one till next week when I would have finished that.
I'm 3 episodes or 4 episodes into season 4, having only started it a week and a half ago, and I will have finished season 5 by next week.
Yeah, but I remember the first time we ever spoke about Ghost, and Sharon, you the one who reviewed it on the show, and you were just sort of raving about it and saying that it's brilliant, it's one of the best things ever, and you weren't using that as a hyperbole. You literally meant that, like it's probably one of the best.
Yeah, Ghosts and Detectives, I think, are the best television programs, full stop, in the last 10 years.
Well, I have to agree with Ghost. I think with Ghost, they pull off I'm the kind of person who, if I watch something good, like if I listen to a good album, let's say somebody does a good album, I'm like, good, fine, I've got that. And then they release another album, and I'm likely to not listen to the second album because I'm scared that they're going to ruin it after the good stuff they did in the first album. And Ghost is so good that I know this is the final season of the UK version of Ghost, and I'm like, no, they could have gone on forever. I could have watched. I don't know how they did it, but it's so well written, so well performed. The ensemble works so well together that I was like, I could watch this thing. I wouldn't mind them carrying on for another 10 years.
Yeah, it just has a real warmth. There is going to be a Christmas special, I've heard. There is going to be a Christmas special. I think that, because they've said this is the last season, but they have announced there will be a Christmas special to sort of, I don't know, just tie things up a little bit.
But yeah. I have to say, since finally starting it, I've just said to people incessantly, it's delightful. I don't have a better word for it than delightful. Yeah. It makes me smile. If I'm having a crappy day and I watch it, it makes me smile. My eyes light up, and the world feels like a better place.
I couldn't argue with that. I cannot agree with that anymore. Because especially because it's one of the few things that, obviously people talk about this golden age of TV and everything, and sure enough, there's a lot of good stuff out there, especially on the streaming sites. But now that I have children who have started, or at least one child that has started repeating the stuff that she hears on TV, start realizing that there isn't that much stuff that you can watch with your kids.
No, there isn't.
There isn't that much stuff that you can watch with your kids where you're getting something from it and they're getting something from it or anything like that. Apart from if you're going to go with, the demon that is Peppa Pig, and and I'm just kind of like, and Ghost is one of those things where you can put it on and it is family entertainment, but also good. I don't even think wholesome is the word to use, because sometimes it goes to some sort of dark emotional places.
Yeah.
I feel
absolutely, yeah.
It's delightful. The word is delightful.
It is delightful, but I still think that there is at least one episode every season that is likely to make you cry.
Yes.
Yeah.
Which
still means delightful. It still means a thing of joy.
Yeah,
it
yeah.
has
Make
real
you cry.
pathos. It has real pathos,
Yes.
and I think
Yes.
that is quite hard to create that, I think. But they just seem to have this alchemy that it just works for them.
Yeah.
The only thing I can think of that brings me that sort of smiling is the very, very original 1980s series of My Family and Other Animals. Which is, if you haven't seen...
Gerald Durrell sort of...
Yes.
Yeah, early Gerald,
yeah, absolutely watch it. It's Hannah Duncan playing Mrs. Durrell. If you haven't seen it, watch it. It is just lovely and happiness-inducing. And Brian Blessed playing Spiro. It's all levels of madness and joy.
All right. Okay.
Big fan of joy.
Okay. So Scottish Tosin, you hear that? Go find My Family and Other Animals. From when was this? The 80s, 70s?
Yeah, mid 80s, I think.
Mid 80s.
Okay. Cool,
and I think it stands the test of time.
All right. Cool.
I think.
Yeah, well, it was set in the 30s, isn't it? So it's not tied to the time in which it was made, which always makes
no, exactly. And I think I prefer it to the more recent one. So there you go.
All right. Cool. So, well, I mean, it's always a iffy thing if they're going to resurrect an old show. I mean, there are very few shows that have been resurrected that have worked. I think Battlestar Galactica is about the only one I can think of where I would say the new one is better than the old one. Yeah, that's about it. And I say that thinking about the fact that they brought Frasier back now, and I haven't seen it because I don't have Paramount Plus, but I've seen the trailer for the new Frasier, and I think I tweeted about it. I was just kind of like, this is a mistake.
Got Nicholas Lyndhurst in it. That's the only thing I know about it. But then I've never watched any of the old Frasiers, so I can't compare.
Oh, no. When you talk about sublime bits of comedy, I feel like the old Frasier, there were some episodes where the way everything just came together and the way they did it and the sort of the verbose nature of it and the sort of wordplay. There's sometimes when I watch old episodes of Frasier and I think it does not get better than that. Like TV comedy does not get better than that. And and then I saw the trailer for the new one and it just looked like any other American half-hour multi-camera sitcom that gets cancelled after one season. Like the one with William Shatner in it that was called Beep, My Dad Says. Disappeared. There was one, Till Death, I think it was called. Go on. There's Kevin Can Wait. Go on. And it just looked like one of those fodder things that they would have on network TV. And let me put it this way. I didn't hear one thing in the trailer for the new Frasier that made me laugh. So I'm really, really not looking forward to, I'm not watching that, full stop. Anyway,
that's my view.
Let's carry on to the things that we actually have watched this week. And let us start off in cinema as is our want and start off with The Great Escaper. So Sharon, tell us about The Great Escaper, about Michael Caine trolling us all by telling us it's going to be the final film it's going to be in.
Yeah, he did announce it after, I think, but that, as you say, it's not the first time. Yeah, this is based on two events that did make it made a lot of news coverage at the time. And a number of years ago now, I believe it was something like the 60th anniversary of the D-Day landings.
Yep.
If my memory serves. And this is an old gentleman who is a D-Day veteran. He's now approaching, in the film, the character played by Harry Harry Palmer,
Harry
Michael
Palmer,
Caine.
Harry Brown.
Yeah. He was a D-Day veteran who was in the Navy, and he was on the ships that basically took the troops over, and he took them. His ship took people over to Sword Beach, which is one of the British beaches.
Yeah.
Where the land of the 3 British and Canadian beaches, that Sword was the one that his ship went to, and he was one of the crewing one of the landing craft where the armored vehicles were going ashore and to take the battle onto the shores of France, and that sort of plays quite a big part in the film. But he's an older man now. He's living in retirement with his wife. They've given up their home. They live in sort of like sheltered accommodation where there are staff on hand to look after them. They live independently in their own flat with their own furniture, but they have nurses and doctors on staff, and they're sort of looked after basically. And his day is organised where his wife is basically more frail than he is, as she's played by Glenda Jackson in her last role. And he's sort of quite active. He goes out down the front every day, and he walks on the beach, and he buys the papers, and he sort of keeps himself busy. And it's coming up to sort of June, and he had asked the manager of his care home if his name could be added to the one of the parties that go over to Normandy to commemorate the D-Day landings. They happen all the time, basically. They still happen, but this was like the big event, the 60 years. And he's told, I'm sorry, but we're too late. The bookings are full. You can't go. And so he goes, oh, fair enough. And then basically on one day, he just has this moment where his thoughts have taken him back 60 years to what happened on that day. And there's things he feels is left undone. There's some things he wants to do. And that it's important for him to do this, not just as a jolly, but as almost like as a pilgrimage. There's something he feels that is essential that he does. And so instead of thinking, oh, well, I've missed it, he decides to take himself over there. And I don't really want to tell you too much more about it in that regard, because the nature of pilgrimage is quite personal. I think you need to follow that through to understand the significance of it. And at the time, this story was like a light-hearted. That's why it's called The Great Escaper. It was quite light-hearted, and it was this thought of this like man, nearly 90 years old, walking with a frame, in his sort of frailty, but determined that he was going to do this thing. And it was almost portrayed as a bit of a last of the summer wine lark, with just this old boy decided to do this, just have a jolly lark by going, taking himself on the ferry over to France. But the film,
I can imagine it was that, and I can imagine that someone like the son of the Mail would have been like, yes, come on us, Britain, come Britannia, yes, go take the beaches again.
Yeah, just do your thing. And sort of this old boy, he's not to be sort of, they didn't beat him then and they won't beat him now, that sort of thing. And I think this film is much more serious than that. And I think in some ways it's been portrayed as The Great Escaper, that light-hearted tone of it. But the actual tone of the film, I think, is much more reflective and much more, not serious, because there are light-hearted moments in it. But it looks at why. It sort of looks at almost the question of why are these old men compelled to keep going back? And one of the answers is obviously that these men were in their teens and 20s when these events happened, and for some of them it was like the defining moment of their life, and that they lost friends on those beaches, and they lost their youth in uniform in some ways, because they'd spent 6 years, if they're sort of young men. Some of them, they got in at the beginning of the war. That was 6 years of their lives that they weren't getting back. That if they were in their sort of teens and 20s, those pivotal years were tied up. So I thought, to me, it was done really sensitively. Because I remember, obviously, my dad was a Second World War veteran, I've mentioned before. All my uncles were as well. And my dad never wore his medals, ever. He said he wore them at the Victory Parade. And the only time I ever saw him wear them was at VE Day 50. At the 50th anniversary at the end of the war. He never wore them any between those times. He wasn't a member of the British Legion. He was for a few years, and then he left because he said it was full of national servicemen. And he was a fighting soldier from the Second World War. And so he took it seriously. When we always stood for the national anthem in my house, and we always stood for the silence, because it was serious and it was important. And you got this feeling through this film, portrayed as quite a light-hearted film, that these men, they were haunted by a lot of the events they saw on those beaches, and that it is serious and important for them. And so the reason they go to France every year isn't for a jolly. Some of them go to meet up with their pals and get drunk and have a laugh, but a lot of them, it's an act of pilgrimage. And this film sort of took you down that route to show that it isn't just a lark, it was an act of pilgrimage. And for him, it was a really important thing to do. And you see through the film why it was important, and we got to see that journey with him. And so there's a bit of melancholy to this film. It wasn't like the jolly lark that I thought it was going to be when I first went to see it. And my brother went to see it the day before I did, and he was saying, "Oh yeah, it makes you think, this film," and it does. I think it actually does put you in those shoes. So I thought it was a really well done sort of piece of cinema.
Yeah, because at the first glance, it does look a little bit like, like the Unlikely Pilgrimage of Howard Fry with Jim Broadbent, that kind of thing. But for everything I've heard, it sounds like this film has a lot more on its mind.
Yeah, and it's quite sad. And I was moved to tears in a couple of places where I just felt for him, and you do see his relationship with his wife, and you see their relationship how it unfolded when they were young.
When they were younger,
war. Yeah, so you see
when they were courting.
When they were courting. So you do get these flashbacks, and they have this moment where they celebrate the sunrise, and you see they do that several times through the film. And for every sun that rises, it also sets, and it made you that sort of sense of melancholy, was that we are looking at a couple at the end of their lives, and at these sort of key moments that they wanted to do, at the end of their lives, that was important to them. So there was that feeling of melancholy with it. Though I thought it was very well done. It did move me, and I just made you think again that these old boys you see in ever sort of fewer numbers every Remembrance Day, they carry these memories with them, and the reason they sort of march in these parades and wear their medals is because, it was an amazing thing that they did.
Yeah. And okay, so how many stars will we give The Great Escaper?
I would give it a 4. I thought it was worth going to, but don't go to see if you think it's going to be a light-hearted romp, because it's not. But it is certainly a serious film, I think, and it's a topic that, I thought it was, to me, it sort of touched me and moved me, and I thought it was really well done.
Cool, good stuff. So 4 stars for The Great Escaper. I was going to say something, but never mind. It wasn't that important anyway. It would only have brought the tone down. So, now we are going to go over to home, Netflix and Friends, where we shall spend the rest of the show. And we will kick off with Wheel of Time Season 2. And Holly, if you are with us.
I am, and hopefully audible.
Okay, cool. So tell us about Wheel of Time Season 2.
Based upon an extraordinarily long series of books by Robert Jordan. It was meant to be a 10-part series. He unfortunately died along the way, and had to have the last book finished by Brandon Sanderson, I believe, who wrote it in 3 parts rather than 1. So it's something of a never-ending series and is unnecessarily protracted. But I have read all of them compulsively, so I know my source material. So the premise of the story, that starts obviously with season 1, because 1 happens before 2, is that there are 5 young people in a village that gets attacked by sort of demonic appearing half man, half animal creatures, and they head off on an adventure led by somebody who is a wielder of magic, and it is thought that the young women, whom there are 2, might be, are actually capable of the use of what's called the Source. At the end of season 1, without going into too much detail and spoiling things, it's established that a key character is called Rand, and he is the dragon reborn, and is going to be the sort of the savior or the destruction of the world.
Yep.
Series 2 follows on from this, obviously, and begins with him not having died as his friends thought, and trying to get away to keep them safe.
The series then progresses with the women, Nynaeve and Egwene, learning about their magical, for want of a better word, abilities in the White Tower, which is the place where all of the Aes Sedai, the wielders of the Source, are based. And then things going somewhat awry, with everybody being separated, brought back together, in varying degrees, encountering evil of all sorts and good that is in fact evil. It gives you some interesting combinations of religion. There are things which are clearly, some of the language can be sort of connected with other languages, the behavior. You can see some links with Christianity, some links with Islam. Christianity doesn't come off terribly well in it, in all honesty.
What?
Through sanctimony and blind belief lacking nuance, which is obviously not.
Yeah,
not the reality.
If I may, I just wanted to say, like, it is quickly becoming one of my favorite things, hearing somebody trying to sum up a fantasy TV show for people who are not steeped in the lore, because I think you've done
extraordinarily difficult.
I don't think, yeah, no, it is one of my favorite, because you start off, each time you start, I think Sharon reviewed season 1, and it was a similar thing where you're trying to talk about everything, and you talk about Arjas and Aes Sedais and everything, and you can, and I think I can almost hear the moment whenever somebody is trying to describe this thing to people who don't know about it, where they kind of go, "Oh my God, I've just heard myself. Nobody, people think I'm crazy. I'm just spouting words. I'm just spouting sounds."
You just sort of throw your hands in the air and go, "I don't know how to explain this properly because it doesn't make much sense without having actually watched it."
It's kind of like how I remember what some of my friends were trying to explain things in Game of Thrones to me, and they were told, "Oh, Slavers Bay and blah blah blah," and I was just kind of like, place, and other Tolkien sounding place. This means nothing to me.
These are words. I recognise the words, but I do not recognise the context in which you are placing them. Fundamentally, it is a second series of a fantasy series that is based around the classic battle between good and evil, that involves women being able to wield magic safely, and the view being that men cannot, and that when they can, it is dangerous and awful. And your lead male character, Rand, can wield the Source, and this is considered to be dangerous. He is the reincarnation, for want of a better word, of a previous excellent person, but who managed to break the world when there had been a much more modern, or sci-fi modern world that is more advanced than ours, and this has taken them back to something medieval. There is drama, there is excitement, there is religion, there is mistrust. It's all action-packed. I'm walking around waving my arms in the air in a slightly incoherent fashion with the enthusiasm for it.
Yeah, and from what I can hear, from everything I hear, there's Rosamund Pike being brilliant.
Yes, Rosamund Pike is marvelous. I always think Rosamund Pike is marvelous.
I have so much respect for that woman. I have so much respect for that, especially bearing in mind that the first time I ever saw her on screen was in a Bond film as a Bond girl, and the career that she has built for herself, going on from that, I am in awe of Rosamund Pike, especially because
she is spectacular.
Especially because with Wheel of Time, it's actually run through. She's one of the producers. I think it's run through her production company. So what the woman has done, I just think I think she's great. There was a TV show that she was in with Chris O'Dowd, where every episode was about the first 10 minutes before a couple go into a couples therapy thing. That was filmed in West London. I've actually located the road in which it was filmed, and that was brilliant. It was like 10-minute episodes. It was on BBC iPlayer, and they took away the first season before I could finish watching it. But anyway, Wheel of Time. So Wheel of Time, what do you think? What do you think?
Love it. it has its ups and downs. It is not entirely consistent with the books. It's not necessarily a bad thing because Robert Jordan needed more editing. As is so often the way. It's like J.K. Rowling, where when she became successful, they stopped editing her, and her books like 25 times too long.
Yes.
It's just a thing, and that's really what happened with his writing, which is how you end up with 3 books for the last one when it could be way shorter. So
that sounds like a money-making thing.
Oh yes, and sort of self-indulgent rambling thing.
Yeah.
So I think I think it's very good. It deviates from the books, but I think it deviates well. The characters are well constructed. They're well acted. I really, really enjoyed it, and will very happily watch it again. But as we know, I watch everything again, so that's not necessarily a statement of anything. I give it a solid 4.
Oh, cool, good 4. Oh, and also, by the way, that other show I was talking about was State of the Union. And if anybody can show me where I can watch State of the Union season 1 without having to pay anything extra than what I'm already paying for all these different streaming platforms, please get in touch with us on Twitter, on Facebook, by Carrier Pigeon. I want to finish watching State of the Union season 1 because it was really, really good. Season 2, not so much. But season 2 was a whole different couple. Okay, cool. So 4 stars for Wheel of Time season 2, and we shall go on swiftly because I've just been texted to say that I have one of my growing brood who is yelling for me. So we shall go on to They Cloned Tyrone. Now, this is a film on Netflix starring Jamie Foxx, Teyonah Parris, and John Boyega, and it's the idea behind this is that you start off meeting John Boyega's character, and he plays a character, whose name I cannot remember, but he is a drug dealer. He's a drug dealer in a sort of like an inner city, mostly black neighborhood somewhere in America. And you see him going through his everyday process, what he does. He wakes up, he asks his mom whether she wants anything. She says she doesn't want anything. He gets in his car, he goes to a shop, he gets a scratch card, he drives around the neighborhood, he sells some drugs to some people, he deals with some people who are on his patch, all that. And as it goes on, he meets up with Jamie Foxx's pimp, who is called Slick Charles. It's called Slick Charles, and he gets money of Slick Charles, and then he gets shot. He gets gunned down in the car park outside this motel where he meets Slick Charles. Then the next thing you see is that he wakes up the next morning. So going, like touching his chest where he was shot, and he was like, oh, okay. And it was almost kind of like what the hell's going on? Oh, that was weird. Then you see him go through the same thing. He goes in, he gets a scratch card, he has a drink, he deals with somebody on his patch, all that. And then he goes to go meet Slick Charles, who is freaked out by the fact that this guy is here, because he's like, I saw you get shot last night. Why are you here? What the heck is going on? And he goes with Slick Charles and one of Slick Charles' prostitutes, played by Tyrone Paris, called Coco or something like that. I cannot remember the names of anybody apart from Slick Charles. And they start trying to figure out exactly what happened, because he thinks something is off. They're like, we saw you get shot. How are you still alive? And it goes on to this whole thing where it becomes like one of these, shaggy dog detective stories. One of these things where you have like a detective story where the person who's doing all the detecting is highly unqualified to do the detecting, but it's kind of trying to figure it out as you're going along. And that's the 3 of them. It is set in the modern day, but it looks like blaxploitation. It looks like this film was filmed in the 70s. The fashions look like they're in the 70s, like in the sort of like real blaxploitation, Foxy Brown type mode. And it has a very, very singular tone and a very, very singular look to it. And the way everything goes about it, especially Jamie Foxx. Jamie Foxx stepped right. He's kind of like Huggy Bear reborn. and so as it goes on, there's a clue in the title, where they call it They Clone Tyrone, as to what is going on. So I don't think that is much of a surprise. But it's about them going through to figure, what is going on here? And then it becomes a satire. It becomes a sort of really high concept satire of Black people in America and what is being done to them. If I say so, I don't want to say that much more because I think it's quite clever. I think it's quite clever. As a black person, I am not American, but there are some things that have been transported around the world amongst black communities that you can look at and you can be. There's a bit where they talk about essentially there's a whole thing going through it about the different products that black people use and what those different products that black people use and use a lot of things like hair cream. There's a bit about fried chicken. There's a bit about is there a drink or something like that? But and what goes on with it? And so they essentially keep pulling at this thread, and then they just kept on going to like higher levels of conspiracy to see where this thing goes, and it just gets getting crazier and crazier and crazier until it ends up in this kind of like let me see. The climax of this film does not have that much dissimilar with the climax of Austin Powers, the first Austin Powers movie. so there's like loads of different genres in it, where it starts looking almost like a realist drama, then it goes a little bit absurdist, then it looks like it's a 70s homage. It's directed by a guy called Jewel Taylor, and I just think that they've done really well with this. I think the satire in it is something where essentially, you know how it is when you're watching something and you immediately, as you're watching it, you start texting people going, dude, have you seen this? Oh, you need to watch this. Oh, someone please watch this. Or someone please watch this because I need to speak to somebody about this. Because I just started texting everybody I knew who I know understands 70s blaxploitation, and I'm like, it's a very clever way of doing a satire without it being heavy-handed, if you get what I mean. You know, like when someone there's sometimes, because I think there's some satire that can feel very, very worthy, very kind of like, yes, this is the point we're making, and this is the thing we're going to try and take down. And I feel like this film it does it in a very sort of like in a loose way, in a light-handed way, dealing with some weighty issues as to almost sort of like systematic issues. And it's not just one of those things where it goes, oh yeah, the problem is that we've had racists who've done all this stuff to us. It actually goes into going and says, okay, what have we done to ourselves as black people? And I loved this film. I thought it was really, really good. I thought it was fun. I thought it sparkled. I thought that the trio of John Boyega, Tyrone Paris, and Jamie Foxx, I thought that they sparked off each other really, really well, and it works. Because I feel like when you have one of these things, it's whether this group, you enjoy watching them do what they're doing, and you enjoy watching them going through whatever it is they're going through. And I really, really did enjoy watching these three. I thought the chemistry worked quite well. I thought that the story was quite good. And there's a little bit of Get Out in there as well. Yeah, there is a little bit of Get Out in there. So all I can say is it's hard to encompass this whole film. All I can tell you is that it's good, and go watch it. So They Clone Tyrone on Netflix. I would give it a 4 out of 5. So all that's left to ask is, who has won this week?
I think it's a head-to-head draw here. Everything's marvelous.
Everything is marvelous. We have had a good time in the cinema and at home over the last week. We are the winners! Yay!
Yay! Hurrah!
God bless us, everyone.
Exactly that.
Yes. So I think that's everything. If you would like to get in touch with us and you would like to tell us what you thought about any one of these things, a bit like how Scottish Tosin did, if you'd like to get in touch with us and just tell us what your thoughts were, The Great Escaper, Wheel of Time Season 2, The Clone Tyrone, or anything that you can see in the back catalogue that you've listened to once I've actually uploaded it. Because Holly, I was telling Sharon earlier that I still haven't uploaded the show we recorded 2 weeks ago. So
minor details. You have a new small person.
There's a new small person. There's a new small person, but it's actually and there's a new small person which has made the older small person my main responsibility, and she takes up a lot of time. So yeah. So but anyway, what was I saying? I was saying, get in touch with us. Get in touch with us on Twitter, Netflix via Cinema, Facebook, Netflix via Cinema, YouTube, Netflix via Cinema. And because Sharon is our stats person who likes looking at a YouTube thing and figuring out what videos are being watched, what trends we're seeing, how many subscribers we have. So please give Sharon something to do and go onto our YouTube channel and do stuff. Share it with people, tell people about it, and it will be great. But until next week, when I still don't think I would have made it to the cinema.
And I don't think Sean will be back from Vietnam.
I don't think Sean will be back from Vietnam. I feel like I might have to start doing a section of this show, which is like things I would really like to see in the cinema. Things that are in the cinema right now that I would love to see, but I can't because I can't leave my house. Not yet.
Things that I would have watched in the cinema and I'm now watching at home because I didn't make it to see them in the cinema. I think there needs to be an element of that as well.
Yeah, working at home in like 3 months, in 3 months' time. Oh, so actually, that's a good point. Let's see what's actually in the cinema. Redditch. La 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 la. What is in the cinema? The Exorcist Believer. Not watching that. Taylor Swift, Taylor Swift, the Eras Tour. What? The Exorcist or Taylor Swift?
Both, actually.
I'm actually really intrigued by the Taylor Swift thing. I'm actually really intrigued by it. Let's see. The Creator still around. The Great Escaper. Saw X. Heck no.
Yeah, no.
Let's see. The Trolls band together.
Yeah, no.
That's the no. I thought it was like the Norwegian Trolls thing. It was like
no, Sharon. No. This is an animated movie that even I would not go and watch.
Yeah, nor I.
Yeah, it's because we have the whole thing like Sharon. It's like no, not cinema. No, I mean not animation. Pluck my eyes out. I'm the one who's like animation, yay, wonderful. But even I won't see Trolls. Like even I have my limits. Killers of the Flower Moon is out tomorrow.
Now that's meant to be amazing, and I really want to see it.
Oh,
and I also want to read the book.
Killers of the Flower, a film called Some Other Hood.
Yeah,
Creator.
Don't know what it is.
There's a Hey Dougie cinema outing. That might be that might be where I live now. Dumb Money. Dumb Money's out as well.
Oh, that does look good.
Oh yeah, these are all films I would like to see. Man,
I have to check what's on here because things work differently on the Isle of Wight. So who knows what's on our cinema?
Yes, they do. Yes, they do. As I got to sample at the weekend, we actually got to meet up in person at the weekend, Sharon.
Yeah.
Yes. Although didn't get to go to the cinema. But anyway, this is probably not any good for anybody who's listening. So until next week, when I will bring you all the things that I have resolutely failed to leave my house to go watch in the cinema, it's a goodbye from me.
It's a goodbye from me.
And a goodbye from me.
I love that whole sort of like Mexican standoff thing. Who's going to say goodbye first?
Like who's going to? Yeah, we either talk at the same time, or
we just pause. Silence.
Okay, never mind. Thank you very much for joining us. Goodbye.